Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. I'm really excited to be at it again today. I've got a fantastic guest on it. I know that I say that about everybody. One, because it's true. But two, I really do have one on today. I mean, me and Scott, we were just kind of getting to know each other for the last 5-10 minutes. And I already have, I had to say, Scott, okay, hey, hold on. We got to stop this and rewind because there's so many things that you just said that I want to capture on the podcast and have people be able to listen to. And so there's already tons of questions that I've got in my mind. So I'll introduce Scott here in just a moment. This episode, as they all are, it's brought to you by my company, Moxie Pest Control. The last couple of years, they've been great for most pest control companies. It slowed down a little bit with maybe some of the commercial type things as COVID was kind of doing its thing. But as many of you know that are in the space, people spend a lot more time at home. And so the residential sector in space saw a little bit of an uptick. I think that we might be normalizing right now, but we're growing just like you guys are growing. Well, part of the way that we've been doing that, and maybe we'll even get into this with a little bit of Scott's story, but is via acquisition. Scott was part of not one of the largest, but probably the largest company just a couple of years ago that experienced a merger or an acquisition, if you will, and he kind of ran that and headed that up. And so maybe we'll get into that. But that's part of the way that we've been primarily growing at Moxie. And so if there's anybody out there that's interested in having those conversations in any of the markets that we're in, we would love to do that. You can reach out to me directly on my cell by calling me or texting me. The link will all be in this episode when it's published, but it's 480-254-9730. And you can also email me directly at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. Like I said, really excited to have Scott here. He has well over 25 years of experience. He joked earlier that he started pest control when he was 5, like all the great start, burning ants with a magnifying glass way back when. He's been in the industry for a long, long time, has lots of experience, has got some really neat marketing experience with one of the 2 largest firms in the entire United States or world, if you will. And so I'm excited to be able to talk about that too. But and then also your latest venture, PestLock. But Scott, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Austin. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun to collaborate with somebody else in the industry and be able to connect. We get going doing our business, and then we forget that we have other cool friends and colleagues that we can glean from, and it's something that's really been important to me. Matter of fact, you alluded to the acquisition of Alpha Ecological and Rentokil, and what a brilliant experience that was, and a learning experience. The funny part is my arch rival was Jack Marlowe from Eden Pest Technologies up here in the Pacific Northwest. And just a little FYI, stay humble. That's my advice. Jack is now one of my key advisors in PestLock. We meet routinely.
How about that?
And he holds me accountable. I basically assigned him the position of CEO over me to tell me what to do so that I stay on track and have accountability. And it's been amazing. What a rewarding thing to go from, gladiators going for it, practically hand-to-hand combat, to both of us getting acquired. And then for me to be able to bring him on and advise me. And he's just if you haven't met him before, he's a guy you want to meet. He just gets it. He gets the industry, he gets business.
I haven't. I would love that introduction. I'd love to meet him. No, that is absolutely. I love everything that you said. Our conversation kind of started with a photo that you took that's in your background. I said, "Man, I'd sure like to be there rather than where I am right now." And you actually took that photo. You spend a lot of your time in the outdoors as a hunting guide, fishing guide, and maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I've been hunting and fishing my whole life, primarily upland game. I'm still a pro guide for that. And then I have a outdoor adventures company that when I have a little extra time, which rarely happens, I did a lot more of it in the past. So like pheasant and chukar and then fishing. But most of what I do is promote and market and then run events. So, and I've kind of honed in to focus on veterans at this point. So this picture in the background is Snake River on the border of Idaho and Oregon. It's most people think that the Grand Canyon is the deepest one. This is actually the deepest and wildest canyon in North America. And it's got everything, and it's amazing. So I love it. It's a passion. What I did, I think by default, I don't think I woke up one morning and had this moment where I decided what I was going to do in life. So two things. One is my passion has always been the outdoors, fishing and hunting. So I took and turned that passion into nonprofit work for veterans, active duty military, and first responders. So most of my time in the outdoors, I take veterans, police officers, active duty military out on hunting and fishing excursions, and we give them an executive level experience. And so like last weekend, I had 45 people out on a pheasant and chukar hunt, and then we went and harvested 2 elk, I think we were talking about. And then pest control is a little different. I mean, I think I told you earlier, I fell in love with pest control.
They're just smaller though, right? That's the only difference.
Yeah, it's the same story. I guess I'm just after the game. So anyway, I fell in love with pest control just shy after I fell in love with my wife. So I met her back in 1998, and we got married in 2000. But in '99, the family business kind of solicited me to see if I was interested, and I had a good business already, but it was 70-hour weeks, and I come from a.
What were you doing, Scott, before? What was your background before?
Buy, sell, trade. I had a car dealership, so we were moving about 50 to 60 cars a month, and then liquidation and a bunch of other stuff. But I was making great money for a young guy, out of college. I was probably making somewhere in the ballpark of $100,000 a year, and happy with it. But I grew up in a family that was very much kitchen table, and I just didn't want to start a marriage where I was working 70 or 80 hours a week. And so anyway, the family asked me, I think 5 or 6 times. I didn't really want to do the family business thing. So the deal was, if one of us doesn't like it in the next 3 months, doesn't have to be unanimous, I'm out. And I can find something to do. Well,
who at the time, Scott, was involved in it? What was it? Both your in-laws involved? Was it a bunch of brother-in-laws?
Yeah, in-laws.
How
it was just my in-laws primarily. In-laws now, but they weren't yet. I started before we got married, and so came into that, and 2 years later, I was a CEO.
So it worked out for everybody.
There's a lot in between there that we don't have time to get into. We can get into it later if you want, but yeah, essentially I just came in and started at I had the oldest. I said, give me the oldest truck in the fleet. I don't want to be noticed. I mean, at that point in time, they're about $3.5 million in business or something. A lot of technicians. Last thing anybody wants to see is the son-in-law rolls in, starts taking everything over, driving the nicest truck in the fleet, telling people what to do behind the scenes. So I just kind of kept my head down, took the 3 tests and passed them all. And 11, I had 11 days before we got married in the field. And one of the guys at the time, who was I guess he was the technical coordinator, said, yeah, we pay a 10% commission on sales. And I'm like, talking my language already, but I had no clue. I was, you could take the test. You don't know what you're doing yet. I love all these people like, oh, we got to pass a test. So what? I mean, I can get anybody past a test. You got to have some serious tribal knowledge to know what the heck you're doing.
Doing the right work, the right way, with the right products, applied the right way.
All the above. All the above. So I remember my first sale, my first day in the field by myself after 3 days of training, which is too little. And I went in the crawl space, and because up here, you do crawl spaces. You want to do crawl spaces here, and it was for carpenter ants or something. When the crawl space, there's no carpenter ants in there. They were all up, on the upside. Couldn't see any activity. Saw some droppings down there, and I had my latex gloves on. I grabbed one. I come up to the crawl door, and pop my head out, and wave the lady down and say, "Yeah, I think you got rats." She started running around in circles, screaming. And then, oh my gosh, don't tell the kid, don't tell the kid. I'm like, well, you need to be quiet because you're the one that's being loud right now. And she said, who do I call? And I'm like, well, us, like, I'm already here. And she's like, I don't care, just get it done. And so I sold her this job for $300 to start her up on a rat control program. And that was my first sell in pest control. And all it was informational. And that's when I realized that, some of the sales principles that are out there, if you there's the informational sell, there's the reactional one where you kind of present a little bit of the data and kind of wait for them to respond. And then there's the hard seller. It doesn't take no for an answer. Pest control is just very simple. Here's a rodent dropping. Okay, fix it. Here's a carpet rat. Okay, fix it. Here's a termite. Okay, fix it. So that was a real eye opener for me and fun. And then in those 11 days, I sold more than the entire 65 technicians did in that period of time. So when I got back from my honeymoon, I hit the ground running and never looked back. And then I went from, I think it was like field sales supervisor to GM to CEO in short order, and got the team to go from $100,000 in sales to $6 million in 4 years. And that wasn't.
So Scott, is that when, like during that time frame, is that when you knew that you were a good salesperson, or your experience at the dealership? I mean, were you in sales at your dealership, or were you mostly operating? I mean, when did you know this or find that out about yourself?
I've done all of it. I think it would be, one of the great executives I worked out at Rentokil always said, when I talked about marketing or sales, that I turned into a different person. He could see it. But I'm not afraid of operations either. I mean, I wrote all the programs that we did and the technical programs and all that. But yeah, I think my sweet spot is marketing and sales. I really enjoy it. I enjoy digging into the psychographics of it, the head of the customer and what it takes and what colors work and all that. But I really like the grind too. I love hanging out with technicians. I love riding along with them. I love getting in the thick of it. I love engaging that customer directly. So I don't know that there's any part of it I don't like. I think the key for me is that I just genuinely enjoy people. And so it doesn't matter what level it's at, but yeah, sales was just a leadership thing. I had to teach these guys how to flip a switch. And it wasn't just about money. It was about explaining to them that, my theory is that personality doesn't dictate sales capability. It just doesn't. It's not a personality thing. You don't have to be charismatic. You don't have to be anything, You just have to be technical and present the information in a professional way and let the customer make their decision. You don't have to be aggressive or kick their door down or something like that. You just have to be friendly, genuine, and present your information. And people will make a bona fide decision based on that. And I still sell that same way today. I mean, I'm out in the field and people are like, you don't seem very high pressure for all you're saying. It's like, because I don't need to pressure you to make a good decision. I just need to inform you on what a good decision is. And so all I did was just teach guys that were intimidated by the word sales and say, you don't have to be a salesperson, just be a professional. If you walk by a job and you go out for termites and they have in your neck of the woods, say they've got like a black widow spider infestation in their, furniture, and they see the web and they know it is and they see it there and they walk by it and they just squirt around the perimeter and do an inspection for termites. I just taught my guys that's a lack of professionalism.
Yeah, what a disservice to yourself, to the customer, to everybody.
Yeah, I used to have people say, how could you sell a $2,000 job to that 80-year-old grandma? I'm like, well, how could you not? Because if it was my grandma, I would want you to sell her the proper price for the proper service. Because we all know in this industry, I don't care who you are, price doesn't matter. There's a certain threshold of what you can do and not do for the right price. And anytime you massively discount it and cut corners, you're just hosing everybody, including the customer, us as an industry. You're hurting everybody. Price accordingly. Don't be afraid of it, and present proper information. Be technically sound. Follow the label. All the rules, and just get the job done. It's really easy. And like I said, you figure it catapulted us to 850% growth over a 5-year period by just retraining technicians how to think properly about what they were doing.
So, Scott, if I'm doing the math right, and correct me anywhere that I might not be correct, but you got involved in Alpha Ecological, your in-laws company, at about 2000, the year 2000. Mm-hmm. 2 years later, early 2000s, you were CEO and kind of running the show. At that time, in a 5-year period or so through the mid 2000s, it seems like you were very involved, probably in sales, maybe some marketing, but not afraid to do anything. It sounds like you were in crawl spaces a lot, in vehicles a lot, probably doing some things in the office or the operations center, QAing, those types of things. What was some of that growth like, and what challenges did you guys have during that time? Because everyone knows that's done it. Running $1 million company is very, very different than running a $3 million company. Running a $10 million company is extremely different than running and there's still some commonality and principles that are the same, but it is very different. There is like different levels of complication and things that kind of muddy those waters. What was that like for you guys? And then what were some of those challenges and how did you overcome?
It was, I mean, it was exciting, because I love challenges and, taking new territory and going for it, and plus I was a lot younger than I am now. I'm trying to catch my second wind at this point, but, so I think probably one of the biggest challenges that people go through in a service industry, because you operate off people power, right? Especially when you're small. You don't have the gadgets and widgets and dashboards and digital dashboards and, things to track and monitor that will allow you to get a high level view so you can drill down where you want to, when you want to. So I was just operating off of massive growth and just watching the profit monthly the best I could. The biggest challenge, I'd say, because of people power, is that unfortunately you outgrow some really cool people. So, there's a time when your bookkeeper cannot become, your controller, and your controller cannot become your CFO. And that's a very difficult transition. There's times when your national sales director that you assign, when you're a $5 million company, is not capable of managing 110 technicians and keeping them selling in the office sales. And all. There's times when your customer service manager can no longer hold water because she was great at 3 people, but mother hen that's been controlling the 3 little underlings, and you burst another $1 million, and it's just like there's no way, like it's over her head. And then you hire new people, and there's intimidation because you're hiring talent. My philosophy is real simple when I hire people. I don't think I'm that cool or that great. I really don't. I don't look at it that way. I look at people that are way better than me, and I just out hire myself. And the brilliance of it is I can just sit back and watch them run. So I did that early on in my career, and it's always worked out for me. Hire over your head. Hire people that are better, and then play to your strengths and supplement your weaknesses. So if you're horrible in one area, then buy it with the right staff member, the right colleague that will completely take over that area for you, so you don't have to think about it. They'll just tell you, they'll just give you a 5-minute, update once a week, and you don't have to worry. Go do what you're good at, So I think that, the biggest struggle in the growth factor for me was number one, staffing. And we weren't in the market we're in now for finding good people either. It was a little easier to find people. And the other one was just outgrowing really good people. And you're looking at somebody who's been dedicated. They've been in the company, they've never missed it. I didn't have any sick days. I didn't blah, blah, blah. I didn't, I've never missed a day of work. I've been loyal. And now you just hired a new technical coordinator, and that's the position I wanted. And you're like, well, you're just not qualified to do it. And so that was a struggle for me, because I do genuinely care about people, is having to sit down with people and tell them, like, this is just not your lane. Stay in your lane. stay successful. What is it, like 80% of corporate America climbs past their capability. And so you have all these, the majority of all these execs and high level people are operating in a zone they don't belong in. And it's miserable for them. It's miserable for the customers, and it's miserable for for whoever is employing them. Miserable for everybody.
So Scott, when did what year was the transaction between Rentokil and Alpha Ecological?
I know you were gonna ask me that, and I think it was like I want to say it was 2015 or 16. I can't even remember. It's been so long now. It's been a piece. And then I worked for them for close to 2 years, transitioned the whole deal, and then swiftly, even while I was transitioning, Alpha ended up on the marketing team without the title right away, working, because that's kind of was, for residential, kind of the secret sauce. But I ended up in commercial, and like I said, they let me play everywhere on the big kids playground. They were really incredible, and it was fun, exciting, gave me great initiatives. I had fun with my budget. I think my budget was bigger than Alpha's total revenues. Yeah. And man, I loved it. I can't say enough about that crew. John Myers and all of them were just like, have still to this day having just endearing feelings about what they let me accomplish in that time there.
So Scott, was it always the plan of the family business? Like, was this the end game from the beginning? Or like, when did those discussions start to happen? Why did they start to happen? And how did you guys come to that conclusion that, hey, this is actually what we're going to do? We're going to divest. And what was it, retirement for your in-laws? Or what were the circumstances that you're able to share around, that decision?
That's a really good question. And we're still in counseling to this day. And you know what? I want to use our pain for everybody else's gain. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is important for people to hear, because I talk to people all the time about succession plans and all that. We took some runs at succession. It was always very difficult. We probably should have had a not just a financial advisor type person helping us through it. Probably should have had even a counselor talking us through the dynamics of, what do you really want? What are you after? So there was always a void and a vagueness, and there was always a tension. We essentially were supposed to succeed them and buy the company, and I was in the process of doing that with banks, and then they decided to sell to Rentokil and kept me completely out of it. They had frustrations with me on how I ran the business. They were essentially completely retired. My thought process was, who cares? It's still growing and it's got a crazy profit. You get your paycheck, So definitely some, typical generational dynamics that were at play in there. And then part of it was probably the chasm of communication. I blame communication on it. There was things where I just got to the point of like, I don't even want to try and deal with them. I'm just going to do it because they're never around anyway. They would come to meetings and then bolt after 15 minutes on the phone. So I couldn't even get really good updates to them. So it was both sides of the coin, but succession is a difficult story. And anybody who tries to make it less than that is doing themselves a disservice. I'd encourage anybody thinking or listening to this, because there's so many family businesses, pre-plan, get a good plan, sit down with a mediator and a counselor. I don't care how close you are. I don't care how close you are. We traveled everywhere with my in-laws. We spent time we hang out with them like best friends, and then it blows up in our face. And my career blew up, and the family lineage lost their inheritance, so to speak. Because it's not just about money, it's about all the vested interest in it. It's about all the community that we had created. It was about everything that we were as a family just got a fissure. And so communication in that process is huge. I think even if you have your kids working for you, and there's even a potential of a dream for that, or your kids just working for you, I would suggest having somebody that can mediate it, because it's too raw if you don't, and then you miss points. So, that's my advice to anybody. It wasn't what I planned. If I'd be running Alpha Ecological today as 100% owner of it, had it went the way I wanted. But I'm not sucking my thumb in the corner somewhere trying to figure out life. You move on, you get it figured out, and you make it happen. So, so that it was a real rough time.
And it looks like you're certainly doing that, moving forward and being successful and doing really great things. And so I need to step back and apologize. I thought that you were joking, but I heard something several weeks ago that talked about, the PCT top 100 and how that 40% of those companies that make up the bulk of the revenue for the entire industry would never, ever, could never be for sale because of the way that family dynamics are. There's just so much, whatever it is, whether it's pride or ego or lack of communication or over communication or just different ideas. And it doesn't mean that anyone's right or anyone's wrong. It just means that it's difficult. And people are at different times in their lives, perhaps people looking to retire and go live the good life and golf more and be on the beach. And then others that are in the prime of their career saying, no, not for me. I still got 60, 70, 80 hours a week for a while. This is fun. I'm having a good time. Doesn't even feel like work. I could do this forever.
Right.
And, so thank you for sharing that. And I think that a lot of people will respond that hear that because they've either been there, done that, or are going through that, or will perhaps soon do that. And it seems so not strange to me. Pest is really all I know. It seems like there are so many family pest businesses out there, maybe more than any other industry, more than like HVAC or garage doors. And so I don't know why that is or how that is, but it also it can be extremely rewarding, as you were able to experience for many, many years. And it can be a very difficult, hard thing too. I've got a thing that I've got scheduled in a couple of days with a gentleman that's part of a family pest control business. And he tells me regularly, I think about getting out or doing my own thing. I love what I'm doing. The company is growing, but it is difficult working with dad or sister-in-law, or, there's, you have to give consideration there. It's not just someone that you've hired. There's a lot of background, but there's a lot of history. And so I thank you for, being vulnerable and sharing some of that, because it is a reality. As we, Scott, wind this down, I would love to know, with your background, all the experience that you've got, what would you say? There's whispers of a recession. I thought that we've technically been in one for like 3 quarters now, but apparently now we're really getting into one. But what is the state of the union in your mind for the pest space over the rest of 2023, perhaps into 2024? Are things looking up? Are things looking down? I mean, what would you say some of your thoughts are about the next few years and the pest space?
Well, I've been through a couple of recessions. What I did in the first one, I just followed Harvard, and it said, if you got the capital, punch the gas on the marketing going into it, and when you come out, you'll be on top of everybody else. So that year I dropped about $800,000 in marketing, and that was back in the
2008, 7. Okay, yeah.
And that's what happened. We came out of it screaming. Screaming. As far as predictions on right now, I mean, it started with COVID. I did a press release about get ready for the second wave, so to speak. All the shutdown was just going to drive all the pests to people's houses, so that residential would end up booming. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've pretty much seen it across the board with all my friends. All of them left the commercial buildings and went to the houses because they're commensal pests. I mean, we're the most successful mammal on the planet. Mice are second, rats are third. Where do you think they're going to go if nobody's at work? They're going to go see you at home. And not just that, people staying at home more, people working at home more means they're seeing more of the activity during the day, which has caused the increase or the boom in residential. Commercial, I don't think will ever be the same again. Just FYI for anybody who's thinking about their growth in that sector. I think it'll become more competitive because I think a lot of our commercial buildings, our malls and everything are they'll just end up being Amazon facilities because nobody's going to work really, not like we were before because everybody's accustomed to working from home. So commercial industry is probably going to be, my prediction will probably be about 30% off for the next maybe 10 years or something. Again, don't I'm not a futures guy. If you're asking my gut feeling, I'm giving you my gut. Residential stay steady, but people will be tentative to buy big ticket items. They'll probably be getting 3 quotes. You're not going to close at the door or close on the phone as well as you've been in the past, because there is some concern and cause for concern. But the thing to remember, I think, for everybody that's listening is keep in mind you're in the top 30 most successful industries in worst economic situations ever. We're a necessity. The last thing people are going to turn off is their pest control. So you're in the right industry if you're in pest control to be secure. And if everything hits the tank, right, and it's completely gone, and the government takes over everything for us, then all of us will get hired by the government to do pest control, because
we won't be paid as well, but we'll have wonderful health benefits.
We'll have great health benefits, and we'll have food on the table. It'll be fine. No, that's the thing I love about the pest control industry. I don't really, you asked me earlier, what do you lose sleep at night about? Absolutely nothing when it comes to this. It's my bottom line. I have to manage that. And there's always that frustration. I had a van breakdown yesterday. It's got under 100,000 miles, and they're telling me it needs a brand new engine for like $10,000. So I'm like, well, there went my profit for the month out the window. That I lose sleep over. Yeah. Whether or not somebody needs pest control and will pay to get it done, it's really easy. The top 3 fears of children in the U.S., or out of top five fears of children in the U.S., 3 of them are pests. For adults, we win. We get 4 out of 5. They're all pests. So fear is a serious issue in our industry. Fear, health. We're responsible for saving more lives than any other industry on the planet because of the control of pestilence, because of food chain, making sure that everybody gets fed. If we didn't do what we do, there wouldn't be half the product in the stores you shop at. If we didn't do what we did, everybody would they'd be disease ridden. When COVID came out, tell me this, anybody who's listening, respond to you on this. I'll say something controversial here. Austin, I apologize. What one of us in pest control gave 2 shakes about COVID? We deal with vectors of disease all the time. Pigeon work, rat work, mouse work, everything we do, we're on the front lines of that all the time. Like COVID, okay, it's another one. Cool.
It's another Wednesday. Thanks. It's another Friday.
Yeah. I saw a rat downtown Portland, or I saw one in Phoenix, shut the whole town down because, the plague is about ready to be. And I don't say that. This is not a partisan thing. It's not a political thing. It's just a thing that I'm talking to some of my buddies and some of the gals I know that are operators in the industry, and we just laugh. It's like, this is laughable. Like, if people knew what we did, the whole world would just shut down. Everybody would stay in a little cubicle somewhere, the glass box, hiding out. But anyway,
I love it, Scott. I love some of your outlook and just optimism and positivity about it all, because at the end of the day, what do you do about it? You stay. It serves nobody, not yourself, not your family, not your organization, not your employees, not the industry, to be down and out, sucking your thumb in a corner. Yeah. Like, why? For what? It doesn't make you feel better either,
Nah. So it doesn't get you anywhere.
So have the outlook that you do. Scott, this has been awesome. I've gone over what I told you we would do. And so how do people, and I've got to have you on for a part 2. I've already got it planned out in my mind, but what is the best way for people to continue the conversation with you if they want to do that? Do they email you, or are you on LinkedIn? How do people access you?
Probably email, just because where I'm at with building PestLock right now, it's hard for me to keep up. And then my office manager, Shannon, peruses my PestLock email, so that, well, you know that already. That's how we were able to connect, because it's really hard for me to stay on pace, because I'm still full-time in the field selling and doing technical work in PestLock right now, and will be for the next couple of years. But yeah, it would be Scott, just SCOTT at pestlock.com, PSTLOCK.com. And I think that the keys that I could probably help anybody with is probably marketing, succession planning, things of that nature. If you want to build your own equipment, you're sick of waiting for somebody to get the spray rig to you. I know how to source your own stuff. Basically what I'm saying is everything, but my heart would be to help people with marketing and sales and operational efficiencies and definitely succession planning. Cause I will go as deep as they want to go in the conversation about family succession to try and help them make it a win. Because my heart would be see no family give up a business if they didn't want to. Just keep passing it along.
I love that. Scott, thank you very, very much for your time. I know it's very limited and valuable, and thank you for sharing it with me and my audience. Thank you all of you who patched in and listened to this whenever you did or however you did. They'll drop every Thursday. And until the next one, create a great day.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk to you later, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.